4th. Everyone is present except for Mr. Russell Wiseman. He must have stepped out with Shepherd's Haven for a second. But if I can have everyone stand for the opening prayer. Who would like to say the opening prayer? Mr. McKee will say the opening prayer, and please remain standing for the pledge.
Bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you, and man, what an incredible season this is. And Lord, thank you for Shepherd's Haven. Not what we give to them, but Lord, they're such a treasure in our town. And Lord, thank you for those that care for them. And Lord, thank you for our staff and every department that we have, Lord, that they take great care of us, great care of our town, our citizens, Lord. And we're just grateful for that, and we give thanks to you for that. And Lord, our citizens, Lord, we just ask for protection and safety over them. And Lord, I pray over every one of the gentlemen and our staff tonight as well, the ladies in our staff, that you give us wisdom as we make decisions for the town. And Lord, just be with us tonight, and just ask you for your guidance, Lord. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Elizabeth, would you like to start us off with the pledge, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the November 6th, 2023 meeting? Motion from Mr. Harmon, second from Mr. McKee. Any discussion on that? On the minutes? Mr. Biggs, any discussion on anything? Okay. I didn't know if everybody was paying attention. We're on the minutes right now. I didn't know. All right. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Next up, we have grievances and comments from citizens. This is where we give you a chance to come up and talk on any particular topic, whether it's on the agenda tonight or not. We'll give you up to 3 minutes. Please note that it's not a Q&A. We do try to answer some of the questions maybe within the meeting if we can, but if we can't, staff will definitely take note of your name and address and get back with you. We usually have cards that we pass out. I don't know if we had any cards that anybody, I don't see any up here. So if anybody missed one, was anybody here to speak on this? We do have public hearings tonight, too. If you're here to speak on that public hearing, please wait on that particular topic at that time. But anyone here to speak on anything right now? Oh, you guys are going to make the night easy. Thank you. Well, I guess we'll move on to communications from the mayor. We have the sheriff's department. We got 2 here tonight. So, which one? Welcome. You didn't know you were going to get in. Oh, we get a chief tonight.
Yes.
Oh.
No, I come to introduce myself. Several of you already know. I was here as a captain, now I'm back as the chief for uniform patrol. So, if y'all need anything, you're more than welcome to give me a call. Call 911 and they'll transfer to me. I'm just my number is 222-8500. But my cell number, you all can call me my cell.
Gotcha. We'll get it from Miss Durant has it. Mrs. Durant has it.
So, call to the concerns, anything that you all need, I'm here for you. And I live in Arlington, so I'm always around. And you probably see me, I'm in the black Tahoe. I'm always creeping up and looking and seeing something. I feel like I don't work here, but I really do. So the crimes that you all have, I told the good I'm gonna give them a break today and do the crimes. I can introduce myself. You only had 5 incidents. Had one, is that Burger resident? Yeah. Burger resident. Right, kicked the side door in, but didn't get anything that left. Then person left a cell phone on the back bumper. I guess they didn't want it anymore. Then we had left wallet at the Dollar General store. The money was too heavy. And then we had employee stole another employee's check. But there's nothing we all can do about that. some reason, people seem to want to leave valuables in there, whether it's book bags. I mean, I've gone to stores and go in there, next person come out, they have a bag, look like a purse. A criminal doesn't know if it's not a purse or whatever, knock your window out, it costs you more for the window than the item itself. If your gun is too heavy, just leave it in the house. If your purse is too heavy. Most criminals know, I've been doing this 34 years, most criminals know that women gonna have a purse. So if you leave, like going to ATC Fitness or something like that, 9 times out of 10, they're watching you have a purse, they know it's a purse, they feel it's a purse in their car, and they're gonna break in there. So the best thing is to do, if you have a purse, bring it with you, or leave it at home, just bring what you need, your ID, whatever the case is. If you're having a home, let me see, neighborhood watch programs or anything like that, you want us to come out, give us a call. I'm more proactive, so if there's anything that you need, plus personally, I live here, so of course, I want to be there, if you need, but I do it for all the citizens. But if you need anything, just give me a call. I'm available 24/7, just like the mayor. He tried to have me one time, I ended up at the fire station. I just want y'all to know I'm here for you.
Gee, we appreciate you. We appreciate your comic entertainment too. But welcome back to Arlington. It's always good to have you back. So, thank you. Any questions for Chief? Don't let him get off that easy, guys.
I got his cell phone number.
Okay, so does,
I got the first 3 of it in.
we're just messing with you. We're messing with you. So, y'all have a Merry Christmas. If we don't see, hopefully we won't see y'all again because there won't be anything going on.
Well, actually, you're gonna see me because I'm always out, so.
Yeah.
I'm always out.
All right. We appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night. Bye-bye. Chief Harville. Arlington Fire Department report.
Thank you. This is gonna be our November activity report for 2023. 99 total responses, 55 were EMS, 44 were fire. We gave mutual aid 24 times, received it once. We had 16 calls south of Interstate 40, and 16 calls on Interstate 40. We had 1 fatality accident at the end of Larry Anderson, McPherson, Merrill Road. And then we had 30 total inspections. Both companies participated in the annual Christmas tree lighting on the square, and we also started, I know it's officially December news, but we started the process in November, hiring our 2 new personnel for the department. So today, this morning, started orientation for week-long orientation for Peter Panos. And so they'll do a week-long orientation and we put on company.
Great. Any questions for Chief Harville? We appreciate you. All right. Just a few from me. First, Mrs. Howe couldn't be here tonight. She had I think her grandchild's show or something to be at. So she did want me to relay that the chamber lunch is the 13th, which is next Wednesday. And for everyone who doesn't know, the chamber lunches have moved from, they've moved to Orion Hill from now on. So they will be there the same time and date, just different location from moving forward. So be a different venue, hold a little more people, but it just goes to show how the chamber's grown over the years. So she's doing a great job, and so if anybody can be there next week, just make sure you let her know. For those who went to the tree lighting and Christmas on the Square, I think, the Christmas on the Square, I mean, they were both great, but Christmas on the Square, I know Harry and I were talking at one point, we were talking 3,500, I don't know, people there. It was 4,000. It was hard to tell with it that spread out. But he baked a lot of hot chocolate, or boiled a lot of hot chocolate. But it was a great event. It was fluid. It kept people moving, and everybody we talked to had a great time. So hats off to staff and volunteers. But I mean, we can't thank staff enough. I mean, I said it. You guys make the town look good, and we appreciate all the work that you do. We do have one more big event coming up, of course, the Christmas parade on the 16th. And so I'm sure Brittany or staff will be sending out information soon for any updates on that. That's really all the announcements I have. Anybody have anything else? All right. Committee reports I know we talked about, you heard one of the fire department employees that came up That was one of our DRC members, so we are still in the process of trying to replace that DRC member, which has, we lost a landscaper, so we're trying to find somebody in a similar field of that. But that opening is still there. But anybody have any committee reports? All right, we do have the consent agenda. We did want to bring off item,
Lisa at the library, y'all go by and see her before December 30th. That's her
I talked to her the other night and thanked her for her time. And she was, we are getting we will be changing librarians, but she's passionate about what she does and she's done a good job. And I think she said they're interviewing for the process now for the new one. So I'm really impressed with you in the library. I really am. Your passion now. I mean, I'm really.
hearing all kind of comments.
I know. So consent agenda. We want to do, I think there was one item we needed to remove. Which was that, Mr. Lawson? Or item C, resolution 2023-42. So without any objection, we'll remove that from the consent agenda before we get into motion. Is everybody good? We'll put that under, I guess, old business? New business, okay. All right, so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item C? Motion by Mr. Harmon, second by Mr. Biggs. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. All right, we are on to old business. Item A, second and final reading of ordinance 2023-5 to amend Title 13 Property Maintenance Regulations of the Town of Arlington Municipal Code, Chapter 6. We do have a public hearing on this. Who are we turning this one over to? Gerald.
This is the second and final reading. This is for short-term rentals. Basically, we're adding a definition section and prohibiting any short-term rentals that are not already in existence and legally permitted to be operating. The definition is copied from state law regulations, and we'll be bringing forward at the next planning commission meeting similar regulations that will incorporate into the zoning ordinance and the use table.
You've heard the recommendation by Mr. Lawson. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. McKee.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brooks. We also have a public hearing, so do I have a motion to suspend? Second. Open the public hearing. Motion by Mr. Vice Mayor McKee, second by Mr. Biggs. This is a public hearing for second and final reading of ordinance 2023-05. This public hearing was published in the Daily News on November 10th, 2023. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this, please stand and be recognized. Is anyone here to speak on this particular item? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing and resume the meeting? Second. Motion by Mr. Key, second by Mr. Biggs. Back on the main motion. Discussion or questions for staff? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. All right, item B, which does also have a public hearing. This is the second and final reading of ordinance 2023-06 to amend the Town of Arlington, Tennessee budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Mrs. Owens.
Yes, sir. This is a second and final reading. This is the general cleanup of line items to account for additional revenue that you've received, mainly for permit fees. But it also accounts for the TCRS. It's a requirement of the comptroller to have TCRS in its own line item, and previously our retirement was lumped in with other employee benefits, so it just breaks out that total into its own line item for each department. So staff recommends approval.
You've heard the recommendation by Ms. Owens. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Biggs. Second. Second by Mr. Harmon. We do have a public hearing, so do I have a motion to suspend the meeting and open the public hearing? Motion by Vice Mayor McKee, second by Mr. Brooks. I think, is that who I got it from this time? Okay, all right. Any objection to opening the public hearing? So this public hearing is for the second and final reading of ordinance 2023-06 to amend the Town of Arlington, Tennessee budget ending June 30th. This public hearing was published in the Daily News on November 10th, 2023. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this request, please stand and be recognized. Is anyone here to speak on this particular topic? Seeing none. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing and resume the meeting? Motion by Mr. Vice Mayor McKee, second by Mr. Biggs. We are back on the main motion. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Any other old business, Mrs. Owens?
No, sir.
All right, on to new business. Item A, Resolution 2023-41 to approve a master development plan for commercial plan unit development on 14.59 acres zoned E Estate Residential located on the eastern side of Milton Wilson. Mr. Crater,
Good evening.
and this one does have a public hearing too.
Correct. Start with a little history. The WTRO campus for the Department of Intellectual Disabilities, or DIDD, encompasses approximately 444 acres. It's formerly known as the Arlington Developmental Center. This property is located along Highway 385 and Milton Wilson Road. The current campus consists of approximately 9 major buildings and structures with a mixture of utilized and underutilized spaces. The central building is known as the Baker Building and it is primarily utilized for the WTRO offices. This building was originally built in 1968 as a residential healthcare facility and is a noted architectural award-winning structure. These buildings will be vacated by the state and most likely demolished. The DIDD is a state agency responsible for administrating services and support to Tennesseans with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The DIDD administers services directly or through contracts with community providers. This new facility is for the administration of services only. No individuals will reside at this new development. The intent of a plan development overlay district is to promote and facilitate the use of flexible techniques of land development and site design by providing relief from the requirements designed for conventional developments. The goal is to produce developments that, through better planning practices, provide a higher level of development with consideration for the conservation of natural features, rural character, while providing additional amenities and superior design and materiality. Departure from requirements of the underlying zoning district, including density, dimension, area, height, bulk, use, and specific content regulations of the underlying zoning districts require specific tangible benefits to the neighborhood, community, and to the town of Arlington. The master development plan represents a detailed plan of the overall development of the site, including adequate detail to allow for a clear plan for items such as bulk regulations, architectural character of buildings, open space requirements, with further engineering and architectural information to come at the site plan stage. The applicant proposes multiple uses on the site which would not be compatible in a single zoning district. As such, a commercial industrial plan development is required to apply an overlay zoning to allow for office, health service, and industrial on one property. The office facility is proposed as a 39,304 square foot facility housing office personnel charged with administering services as well as the enabling technology model home, which is open to the public and showcases options for building independence through technology. This program assists in developing a plan for the implementation of technology to allow for independent living. The seating positioning clinic consists of 2 main portions: the client portion of the clinic that houses therapist spaces and training and conference room, where specific evaluations are made for each client to determine the best equipment to be assembled to aid in their daily life. The second portion is the production shop, which houses various fabrication spaces to aid in the creation of specific custom equipment for each client's needs based on the above assessment. This ranges from plaster and molds to small wood shop with CNC capabilities and components to modify electronics. The fabrications are specific to each client and are not replicated or mass-produced. The warehouse building's main purpose is storage. Secondary uses are for maintenance and offices. Stored items will include records, general supplies for both WTRO and WTH equipment, storage, and maintenance department storage. Maintenance will store vehicles and include a maintenance shop, including a provision for a small wood shop / carpentry area, a general shop area, automotive shop for light vehicle maintenance, a small paint shop, a small weld shop, and a therapeutic equipment shop and a locksmith space. The paint shop will include an exhaust system, and the wood shop will include a dust collection system. The office portion of the warehouse will house workstations and meeting space for maintenance and warehouse staff. This staff is responsible for maintaining the new WTRO buildings and the ICF homes. The office component includes a separate public entry area that serves the office for procurement, billing, and invoicing, and vendor sign-in. The office component is the extent of the maintenance warehouse building that is accessible to the public. Bulk regulations. Proposed bulk regulations are indicated in the table, with deviations from base commercial zoning indicated in red. Deviations from base zoning are permitted, given that the development provides tangible benefits to the community. As a commercial industrial plan development, comparison in bulk regulations to various commercial industrial zones should be considered, and those are included in the table for reference. So you're only getting 3 variations from base bulk zoning at a 25-foot front, which would be consistent with most of our commercial zones, and a 10-foot side, which would also be consistent with most of our commercial zones, and 50-foot in height, which would be consistent with an M1, which on the more industrial side. Open space of approximately 9.5 acres, or 65% is proposed, including buffers between adjacent uses along Milton Wilson across from the sports complex. Large courtyard areas are incorporated into the design of all 3 buildings, buffering them from view. A tree-lined walking trail meandering along Milton Wilson will provide pedestrian access along the front of the site. The project will be built in one phase, including all site work infrastructure and all vertical construction. Architectural design. The intent for the exterior finish is to have a consistent palette of materials that are applied to each of the 3 buildings. This palette consists mainly of brick with accents of wood, simulated metal planks, and pre-finished painted metal panels, glazing and pre-finished painted standing seam roof. With limited visibility from 385, the primary views of the 3 buildings are along Milton Wilson Road, as the road curves around to the west side of the site. Indicated here are views from the 385 overpass facing north, and a view from 385 northbound lane. The main building for this development is the office building. Primary finished materials are brick, glazing, and pre-finished metal panels. The building's focus is a large green space courtyard where a glazed wall provides views to the courtyard as well as into the building from the courtyard. Wood simulated metal panels are placed strategically at the entrance as a soffit panel for the glazed wall overhanging the courtyard. A pre-finished metal panel defines a porte-cochere. The majority of the roof is pre-finished painted standing seam panel. The two flat roofs on each end of the office building will have brick parapets to hide the mechanical units. The secondary building for this development is a seating and positioning clinic. This building is a smaller and similar mirror image to the office building. The elevation along Milton Wilson is mainly brick, and with a rhythm of windows that break the long elevation down into a series of panels. Wood simulated metal panels are placed as accents above the windows. A pre-finished metal panel defines a porte-cochere. The majority of the roof is pre-finished painted standing seam panel. A portion of the building utilizes a flat roof with brick parapets to provide prominence as well as concealed mechanical units. The tertiary building of the complex is the maintenance and warehouse. The maintenance and warehouse building has an office component that is the main focus of the structure and is placed as an anchor between the warehouse portion and the maintenance portion of the building. It is similar to the 2 other buildings on the site. A pre-finished metal panel similar to the porte-cochere defines the entrance. Along with the pre-finished painted metal panel, glazing and brick are the primary finishes of the maintenance and warehouse office. The warehouse portion of the building, north of the office, is the inverse of the seating and positioning elevation. Following the same rhythm as the seating and positioning building, vertical brick panels and Panels the same scale as the S&P windows break up the elevation with pre-finished painted metal panels as infill for budgetary reasons. There's a ribbon of windows up high with pre-finished painted metal panels above. The roofs of the maintenance warehouse portions of the building are pre-finished painted metal panels. The maintenance warehouse office has a flat roof with a pre-finished painted metal panel screen to hide the mechanical. Site layout, there are 2 points of access are proposed, one on the southern end of the site serving the maintenance building and one across from the drive at the existing facility serving as the main entrance. A network of private interior roads allows patrons to traverse the site. Road improvements. Road improvements are required along the frontage of Milton Wilson Road. Improvements will consist of widening and the addition of curb and gutter and sidewalks from the existing improvements at the Arlington Woods development south to the State Road 385 right-of-way. The development will be required to relocate the existing multi-use trail along Milton Wilson to make room for a road widening. The multi-use trail will be moved within the property line of the site with a pedestrian access easement along the route. The facility is replacing an existing facility, and as such, traffic volume should be similar to the current volume. The applicant will be required to submit a traffic generation estimates for the facility in accordance with the town's traffic impact study policy to determine whether the site exceeds the threshold values for a site access study. Yeah, it's a vibration. It's this one that keeps vibrating. A tree-lined concrete walking bike path is proposed along the front of the property. This path will begin at the crosswalk of the bike path, exiting the sports complex, and run the length of the property. To the north of the crosswalk, a standard sidewalk will extend north of the property line. Sewer service for the site will be via a public sewer main located at the northeast corner of the site. This sewer main was installed as part of the Arlington Woods development to the north. This development will be required to install gravity sewer lines to serve the project in accordance with town policy. All improvements will be installed in accordance with the town's regulations and specifications. Stormwater detention, the developer will be required to provide stormwater detention as per town policy. All improvements will be installed in accordance with the town's regulations and specifications. Site drainage will be routed to the north end of the site where a detention basin is proposed. Discharge from the detention basin will be directed to an existing storm drain installed as part of the Arlington Woods development north of the site. PD objectives. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen may, upon proper application, grant approval for a planned development overlay district, which through proper planning and design will ensure the following specific objectives benefiting the town, the residents of the development, and the developer. Objective number one, exceptional architectural and environmental innovation in design and development. Images depict building designs that will correspond with their use but are tied together using similar materials and a consistent palette. The indicated images are consistent with the vision for Arlington, representing the expectations for quality of the built environment that do not merely follow the lead of current high-end development, but set a new standard for future development. Number two, exceptional preservation of rural character, open space, natural vegetation, natural geologic and topographic features, historic buildings and landmarks. Efforts to preserve the existing trees and using natural grade to provide screening along with setting buildings back into site to allow for a lower impact to the surrounding areas. Number three, more efficient use of land resulting in networks of street utilities, streets, and other infrastructure features that maximize allocation of fiscal and natural resources. The site is oriented to maximize efficiency of infrastructure. Number four, alternatives to private automobile travel and to prevent this continuity of travel movements that would increase length of trips. Pedestrian bicycle paths are integrated into the design, improving an already popular pedestrian route by moving it into the site. Number five, to allow small businesses serving neighborhoods to provide convenient shopping that is accessible to pedestrians. Connectivity of current pedestrian conveyance to allow for convenient access. Number six, amenities not typically found in other developments such as greenbelt, pedestrian circulation, recreational facilities, et cetera. And though this is a state facility, The aesthetics of the site and the buildings have been considered, combined with the integration of pedestrian access, make the project an example of how developments of this type are expected to be approached in Arlington. And number 7, the developer benefits, including conservation of lot density, lower cost of infrastructure, and increased design flexibility. And again, the site is oriented to maximize efficiency of infrastructure. If approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, conditions must be addressed, and revised master development plan must be submitted. After review, a master concept plan meeting requirements 5.1.3 of the Town of Arlington zoning code must be submitted, which will be recorded with the Office of Shelby County Register of Deeds, followed by site plan submittals to the Planning Commission and Design Review Committee. Staff concurs with the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with conditions listed, as well as any others levied by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And this concludes my report, and we do have a public hearing.
All right, take a deep breath.
Running out of moisture. Get a little dry. Sorry.
No, you're good. You've heard the recommendation by Mr. Crater. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Brooks, second by Mr. Biggs. We do have a public hearing on this, so do I have a motion to close the meeting and open a public hearing? Motion by Vice Mayor McKee, second by Mr. Biggs. All right, we are now in the public hearing for Resolution 2023-41 to approve a master development plan for a commercial plan unit on 14.59 acres zoned E estate. This public hearing was published in the Commercial Appeal on November 9th, 2023. Anyone wishing to speak on this request, please stand and be recognized for your. Mr. Byrd, we didn't have a card. That's our fault. But if you'll come up, and we'll just get staff to get your name and address for the record on this.
My name is William Byrd. I'm sorry, I had laryngitis, can't hardly talk. I live at 5216 Summer Wind. The question is, from 385 to Milton to Memphis, Arlington, you're talking about widen. Are you going to be a turning lane, or making a left-hand turn from there into that? We'll back up traffic. Coming the other way, we're going to be backing up traffic. Because Milton Wilson, especially since the high school been built 12 years ago, is busy. So what are your plans for Milton Wilson from 385 to Memphis, Arlington?
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Anyone else here to speak on this particular topic? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing and then resume the meeting? Motion by Mr. Vice Mayor McKee, second by Mr. Biggs. Back on the main motion. So, questions from the board? Any input from Mr. Hill or anything on that?
We do have a representative from the architecture firm.
Oh, we do have a representative here too. So, Mr. Hill, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Regarding the way we will configure Milton Wilson, when this project is completed, Milton Wilson will be a lot wide enough to have one lane in each direction and a center turn lane, and that's the way we would probably stripe that. But that will end at the north end of Arlington Woods because it narrows back down to 2 lanes at that location. If I'm remembering that correctly, I need to check that. But there is a project planned to make road improvements around the tennis courts, which would give us additional pavement, and we could wind up with a 3-lane section basically all the way. So we're certainly related to this facility. Having the ability to have a left turn lane shouldn't impede any traffic in either direction. It's similar to what happens now at the ADC entrance. There's a left turn lane there now, I think. So we will continue that.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Questions or comments from?
I think the existing road was coming out of the development,
We turn your microphone on real quick. So
Is the entrance, are they going to match up? Are they going to face each other? Because it looks like it's offset
right.
in the picture.
It should align, the intent was to align those 2 driveways with each other.
Okay. Okay. So it's you're going to be looking at a car coming out, so they're not, okay.
But for long term on that, as their offices close, that drive may or may not be there, may be configured different or something down the road, correct?
That
Correct.
could happen,
Yes.
sir.
And that's not local traffic. That's not local traffic coming out of there anyway. It's current staff and everybody, so it's
Yes.
not, They don't get a lot of
It's just
drop-in
moving from
traffic.
one side to the other, man.
Right, okay.
Obviously, in the future, those buildings will probably be demolished, so there's no, we have no idea what's gonna happen.
Probably part of another discussion here in a minute, briefly. But yeah, so, good point, good point. Any other questions or comments for staff? All right, seeing none, or the architect. I mean, does anybody have anything with the architecture? Thank you for being here, though. All in favor, seeing no other comments, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Next up, we have item B. This is a flooding update by Steve Hill, our town engineer. Mr. Hill.
Have a different set of slides to present for this discussion, so Jeremy's going to set that up for me, so bear with us. Some of this will be a little bit of a repeat that you heard before in looking at what's happening in Summer Meadows in terms of drainage and flooding. And so existing conditions, which is what this map represents, there's the Village of Summer Meadows Detention Basin. Let me take this out of here. And then a 48-inch pipe that drains around and continues south that's supposed to drain the water from that basin. So what happens when, and that basin was designed for a 10-year storm, and all the system downstream of it was designed for a 10-year storm. So when we get a big rain, we get a rain event that exceeds that basin, a greater than 10-year storm. If I can get this thing to progress. There it is. This depicts what happens in that situation. So when this basin gets full, something over a 10-year storm, it overflows. Milton Wilson Road floods. And because of the topography of the area, that's a low area right there, what you see. And water will pond in Milton Wilson Road, and if enough of it overflows out of this basin, it will run between these houses and across these lots into Summer Winds Lane. And that's what's happened on at least a couple of storm events that we've seen. Everybody's seen pictures and video of what happens then downstream. All that excess water that was not intended to go this way comes down and ponds in another low area of Summer Winds. And the only way that water can get out is either through a 48-inch pipe or build up high enough to run between the houses. Now, if you think about it, when this kind of storm is happening, that pipe is full, every pipe is full. So the only way water leaves this area in that big storm is through the yards between the houses. And in that case, it gets high enough to flood the houses. So essentially, I've got a detention basin that can't hold enough water, and the natural outlet, because of the geography of the area, is to go this way. When they designed it with the pipe, they thought it was going to go around this way. It won't do that in a big storm. So that's why we're having the floods that we're having down on Summer Winds, and also these properties that back up to Milton Wilson. So I start looking at what can I do? And my options are two. I either detain more water up here, or I get a path where it can get out without flooding somebody. That's the only two things I can do. So let's look at the first one. How could I detain more water up here? Let's see if I can get this to change. There we go. The only way I can make that basin big enough to hold enough water would be to take two lots next door, vacate those lots and excavate a basin and make it almost twice as big as it is now, about 165% bigger. That's the only way I can make the basin big enough to hold the water. And I'm, all this, keep in mind, these are engineering solutions, and I think we need to look at practicality and what can we do and what can we afford to do. And, all of you will need to think about this as time goes on. I don't think we're making decisions tonight about what to do, but I'm telling you the engineering aspects of it. So if we wanted to keep the water in the basin, it'd have to get that big. What if we wanted to get the water to pass through without flooding anybody? One way to do that, since the water already wants to go down to Summer Wind and down to the low spot, you would create a path for that by vacating a lot here and vacating these 3 houses that flood and probably build another detention basin right there. But the water's still going to flood over the street, over the lot, down this street, but now it would have a basin to run into. So that's creating a path for the water to go the way it's been going. I'm not sure any of us are real anxious to buy and demolish houses. So the other thing that we can do as a solution to this, and this is a little bit smaller scale map. I apologize if it's hard to read, but as I mentioned, right now there's a 48-inch pipe coming out of that basin that goes down, hits a 66-inch pipe. And again, this whole system is designed for a 10-year storm. It's not going to be big enough to take anything above that. We can come out here in Milton Wilson and lay a new 48-inch pipe down the street and then cut a channel or a pipe, go around the restrictions of the existing system and back down into the creek where it's all going ultimately. That will prevent the overflow of this basin, except in probably a 500-year storm. I mean, you can still get flooded. It's not going to completely eliminate the risk, but as it stands right now, there's a 10% chance any given year that somebody's going to get flooded in this subdivision. So that's really the 3, I guess the 2 options, 1 or 3 options: make the basin bigger, demolish or remove houses in between, or reroute the flow. And what you would do in this situation with a new ditch or pipe down through here, you would take all the water from the high school, Arlington Falls, and you got to remember, we've got a lot of property in here that hasn't developed yet. And if you look at the details of this drain system in this subdivision, there are 2 pipes stubbed out here, a 24 and a 48, that are currently bricked up. There's no water getting into the system. But at some point, when people develop these properties, they're going to have to drain somewhere. I think right now the water just sort of works its way down on the surface or ponds, and I think in the last storm we had water going over Summer Road down there anyway. So now obviously this kind of project is going to take time to figure out how you would do it. You got to survey and make sure everything's going to work. You got to get easements, bid the project, and then figure out how to pay for it. So that would be the process if we go this route. I'll stop and see if there are any questions right now. And the new one, it would probably be the same size as the 66 that's here now, something like that. Or if we do it as an open channel, it may be 5 feet wide, 2 to 1 side slopes, and 10 feet at the top.
When you do it as an open channel, is it like a creek, or is it like concrete open channel type?
We could do a concrete channel, concrete line invert, or we could do it as a natural channel with the understanding when development happens, they would pipe it. Because right now you've got a temporary open channel on Arlington Falls that was going to have to be piped. Now, I think all the people on the east side are going to say, I may have needed a 24-inch pipe for my property, and now I got to put in a 66. Let's talk about cost share if we take that route. There's details like that. I think we're really going to have to think through what's fair and equitable for everybody involved. But I know we're going to get some pushback from developers who say, you're making me put in a big pipe to fix, theoretically, the town of Arlington's problem. So we'll have to talk through that.
The real problem is that this was designed for 10-year flood, or 10-year rain event. And now we've changed our policy to 25 years, is that right?
Yes.
25 years. So, I think it happened 3 times, is that correct?
I think 2013, 17, and then this year, there may be more.
June the 3rd, 2016, 9 houses on Summer Wind flooded.
9 houses.
And then,
This is unique because, you normally you design a system for a 10-year storm when it's exceeded water flows along the route that the natural pipe goes, the pipe that drains it goes. This is very unusual to have a basin that will overflow and go to a completely different direction than the pipe that drains it. And it's going to another neighborhood, and I mean, this was all designed for 10-year storm, so it's going down to an area that can't take what comes to it at that point either. I mean, it's a very challenging situation, but the only thing, and you know, as we move forward in this property developing, I'm at a loss for what to tell these people. I can't tie them into this existing system. It's already overloaded.
When you say that, go ahead.
Could we require, when those lots develop, that property develops, they're gonna have to meet the 25-year standard, not the.
Yes.
So that may mean if they're gonna connect to an existing pipe, that it's gonna be on them to increase the size of the pipe. Is that correct?
It's, the challenge, so if I'm gonna develop this track, and I need to increase the size of this pipe all the way down to here and all the way down, I don't know if we can put that on one developer and have that fly.
I mean, could we, I'm just thinking out loud, but we see there's like, I guess there's four lots there total.
Yes, there are 4 tracks. Well, this one,
Could you do it like to where they had, as that developed, they had to pay us 1/4 back or something?
Impact fees like, or something like that on the road.
Like they could do, each of them would be responsible for 1/4 of it or something like that?
I think that's certainly doable. I think you could apportion the cost to, what they, basically we're saying the system that's there can't take you, a new one's got to be built. If the town builds it, you're going to pay back some of that cost. So I think there is a system that could be structured for that. Now, Gerald will have to advise us on the legality of that. It's like once you build it, if we build it with pipe, can we go back and charge them for past cost?
Is that the lowest point down where that pipe is in between the properties? Is that the lowest point? Like if you put a canal in there, is the canal going to be exact V, or is it higher on one side and lower on the other to where the water, like if it got up to a certain point, it's going to do some washover this way or this way?
I think right now, these houses are built up a little bit, and the vacant property behind is a little bit lower. So I think, at least until all this develops, if that overflowed, it would go this direction.
That's what I was asking, okay.
And then,
Still would have to, down where the road, where it makes the turn, that's gotta be enlarged before you do anything with it.
you can't do it piecemeal. You gotta make this entire route at one time for it to work.
So going along with that, you said that there are some inlets that are bricked up.
Yes.
What does that mean?
There's a 24-inch pipe stubbed out here, and they took brick and mortared it into the end of the pipe, so it's plugged.
But is it,
I guess the assumption was if someday somebody will connect to it, but that 24-inch right here and that 48-inch right there are both bricked up. No water.
And that
they
would go,
won't help?
and that would go to that big detention pond down there, right? Is that where that?
If it could get in the pipe and get there, it would. But that pipe can barely carry a 10-year storm. It was supposed to be designed for a 10-year storm, but by my calculations, it's not quite big enough.
It would help though, if it wasn't plugged up. No?
Well,
It's a good thing it's plugged up.
yeah,
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That detention basin at the bottom flooded in also.
yeah, that
The
one
big one?
it went over the road here.
I didn't know that.
So this would take essentially half the flow out of that basin, and everything to the east would go through this new channel and come down and either connect to the existing natural channel out to Hall Creek, or I know there's been some discussion about potential borrow area, and maybe this becomes a water feature, and if we could coordinate with that and design it to go into that basin, and then let us out into Hall Creek. I mean, though, that may be possible. I mean,
Where that fills up and the overflow goes into Hall Creek?
yes.
Seems like the only logical answer would be to
Yeah, I think that's what,
I
I
think
was gonna
that's,
ask what Larry's asking the most. What is, I know engineering, you gave us different options, but from you and Mrs. Durant and Mr. Lawson, from all those different aspects, what is the most realistic aspect that we are looking at?
from an engineering perspective, this solution is the best one, in
Okay.
my opinion. Yes. And I mean,
And Mr. Hill, when you started the conversation about this option, it takes engineering, proper engineering, that takes time, bidding, and then this board
Easements.
has to look at budget for such a project.
I was about to say, it looks expensive.
bunch of easements to obtain, yes.
The first option would be the quickest though, right?
The first option, which was purchase the 2 lots.
Take out the 2 homes, increase it.
But does that still give you comfort?
It's, I think it can work as well if we can get that much volume up there that we're gonna minimize. I mean, you may still have a little overflow in a 50 or 100-year storm,
But it would retain.
but it'll hold it. It holds more. We're trying to hold enough water to equal the capacity of the 48-inch pipe, so we don't ever go. In this situation, you still have the bottleneck of a system down here that can't take any more water from property adjoining it. So you fix this flood, and then we're struggling as things develop. What do we do with the water?
That's gonna be on the developer.
You just require that one as they come online.
I don't think we can, it's gonna be hard to say, all right, you gotta put a big pipe in here, but it's going nowhere. For the new pipe to go around the subdivision, it's gotta all be done at once, either as a ditch or a pipe, at one time, because you can't do it in pieces. You could only try to recoup some of your cost, possibly, again, if Gerald says we can do this legally, is some sort of impact fee related to drainage that's specific to this area. What's that? I mean, I think they'll be facing the situation of either paying for that or building a detention basin so big that it barely lets any water out.
Gerald, you never answered the question about whether we could go back. When those lots, when that property developed, could you go back and say,
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I don't give you a definite answer on that. That's an affecting whenever you get to having to charge the developer for off-site, structure.
well, it's not off-site because for them to develop their land, it has to be bigger anyway.
Yeah, but they're only responsible for detaining the water that's on there, so, by this point, we're bypassing and putting a lot more water coming through that. So, creating additional expense. It's akin to making somebody go a 4-lane road when traffic's moving since they need to. So, if we're saying that they need a 48-inch pipe and 24-inch pipe that suffice for the tank there, that may be an issue.
I think,
Bill 66, so it's different.
I think you would end up, like we did Milton Wilson impact fee, it was related to traffic generation in each development. And so that would be the case here, would be related to drainage runoff from your property compared to the whole thing. I
It
mean,
sounds like almost unless everybody was coming in at once to build it, we would have to build it and then charge in arrears.
So, for the question, the 2 lots up here, Steve, I mean, you said that when it gets out of that detention, it comes into a basin that doesn't normally come. Does that detention basin drain back to the north to the detention pond in that subdivision, or does it still come underneath the pipe and drain its way south?
everything drains south. Yeah. Yeah.
More some pipe structure.
The- Right, the outlet pipe, actually, there's a 54-inch, and then there are 2 48-inch pipes under the road that flow into one 48-inch pipe that comes around here. So what flows out of here is limited to the capacity of that pipe, and when it gets more than that pipe can take, that's when it overflows and goes over the surface. But everything is draining from the north down to this basin. You got a bunch of pipes coming from all directions into that.
Allowing everything back around, you're not detaining it or slowing it down, you're just moving that water directly over into that basin.
You're,
That's not the basin, it'll be just into that creek to the south.
that's correct. You are not accomplishing detention. You're letting water out of here faster. So in the higher storms, you're not getting the detention that we would normally require. Which, when was,
96, 97,
I think we were around close to 2000. I think 2000, 2001 era, there was a,
South was in 90, late
yeah.
90s, south.
And I mean, it just sort of developed in pieces and nobody ever looked at, well, what happens when that overflows?
Steve, my question is it just the detention basin to the north in Villages Summer Meadows that's causing the street and the homes to flood at the lowest point south? Or is there topography issues down there that enlarging that detention basin won't help? See what I'm saying? Is all the water that is flooding that street coming from that detention basin on the north?
I think the majority of it is, there's a smaller basin over here, just at the edge of the picture, you can barely see it, that does very little detention. It gets about 9 acres of Snyder Grove. But some of it comes down the pipe, some of it goes over the levee and runs down the street. It still all winds up down here. I mean, this system with a 10-year design and that basin being undersized is not helping. It's contributing more water. But when we look at volumes of flow, that's the elephant in the room right there.
Because the lots facing the cove are 6 feet higher than the lots facing Summer Wind on the
Here.
west.
Yes.
And the lots on the east are about 6 feet lower than the lots on the west. So there's about an 18-foot drop from that cove to those lower lots.
Yeah.
You could still have some street flooding is my point.
It's possible that a big storm, because of limitations in this system, will flood the street. I think the flooding that gets high enough to get into houses is primarily because of that, is what the numbers seem to show.
Mr. Hill, in 2016, where you, for Summer Meadows, or left Summer Meadows in Summer Wind, those 3 houses right there in front, the water was coming over the hill and down there in the front yard and coming down to Summer Wind Lane during the 2016 flood.
Now, the 2016 flood was the 45-minute isolated supercell.
Yes, and it cost me $51,000, that 45 minutes out of my pocket to that.
And that flood is probably likely that the water got even deeper in here. If it gets deep enough, it will come around the corner and it will come through these lots, and that's probably what happened there. But we had a big one there.
All right, so I guess here's where we got to go from here. I mean, we have to let staff and Mr. Hill, Mr. Lawson, of course, for the legal questions, come up with a plan and bring it back to us. I mean, what would you recommend, Mrs. Durant?
I recommend you look at this solution. And that's gonna take time to properly engineer, get construction plans together, bring that back before we send it to bids. You know, obviously you have to approve the bids for construction. In the meantime, while we're waiting on the plans to be engineered, staff between Ms. Owens and myself can be looking at what do we set aside in a reserve line item for a year or two while this is all being done.
This isn't a quick fix.
That's right, it's not a quick fix. So we could set money aside to offset some of the cost as we're working through the engineering part of the plan.
Any other questions?
But you don't have an idea of cost till you start the engineering.
to it, is that the 2 lots all we have to take on that? And the other one, you gotta take
No, they're
4.
not lots, they're
3 or
houses.
4?
They're houses. They're not
They're houses.
lots. Okay,
Yeah.
Oh, I know
it's a
it's not
difference.
empty.
Okay.
We put something there to catch water.
Yeah. Steve, I have a question. The basin that's there now, the one that's in question, that's dry, right?
Yes,
So it fills
yes.
and the spillway gets overwhelmed.
It just gets to the top of the
Okay.
existing
Because
levee.
it's fenced. I mean, you can't see it. I mean, it's always been
Yeah,
fenced.
I mean, there's probably 200 feet of lower south side of that basin is the low point, and so it overflows there. In fact, we've looked at, could we raise that up a little bit and get a
Right.
little bit more storage? I think there may be a sort of an interim step we could do that just to raise that levee. And all that does is give you maybe 8 or 10% more storage. It doesn't get you much more
But
than
if you
the 10.
increased it by 160 or 65%,
It's
and
big enough.
and you did that, it would let you hold more and let it
Yes.
release over time.
And going deeper isn't
Going
really
deeper,
an
right.
option. I mean, does it, a deeper with a pump to pump it out if I don't know, like,
Well,
it turns
you
into
don't-
a pond if you do that, I guess.
Go
but-
so far until
yeah.
you get water, yeah.
Well, the problem is you have to be able to drain it,
That's
or
what I'm
else you
saying.
got to pump it. And I'm going to tell you, if you're talking about pumping, we're looking at 150 CFS. I'd have to do the math, multiply that by 450. That's how many gallons per minute that equals. You don't pump stormwater in real time.
No.
You store it. I mean, you'd have to make the basin 4 times bigger to hold it all at the rate you can pump it out. So we got to have it where it drains by gravity. That's the only feasible way to do it.
Yeah.
We drive by it all the time, just to make sure there's not any water or like stuff that's floated in there to block it. It's really not, that we've seen. It's just when that rain starts, it's not the rain coming down.
Fills up, it's a
that's
street.
filling it So fast, it's all the pipes going into it, and then it overflows.
Have we, this is a dumb question, I really have. Have we verified that everything coming out of the basin is probably blocky, just nothing?
Mr. Perkins?
They have either TV'd the lines or walked through them if they're big enough.
We have every pair of boots available to us on the ground.
Maybe.
Shortly after a rain event.
We've all been out there, and it's a rough, so this is going to sound like a really stupid question, but I'm going to ask it. Is there a soil, I know sometimes our soil around here is real clay and all that. Is there a soil that's more absorbent that helps? Like, could you dig something out and put a different type of soil to where the water drains some? I mean, like absorbs in there and
The problem
evaporates?
is that the peak flow rates you get in a rain
It won't handle
is
fast
so
enough.
much greater than infiltration could ever handle.
Just trying to ask every question.
T-DEC would prefer when you build a new ditch, that it be open, not concrete lined, because they want the groundwater absorption. They want the filtration of resupplying the aquifer. They want you to have that quality.
Is it more feasible, I mean, for a canal versus, I would think it would be.
I mean, we-
Would design it as an open channel.
You do it as an open channel with concrete, or you do it as an open channel with like riprap? I mean,
You can
that's,
do it as an open, natural channel, probably. It's gonna,
natural.
Erosion versus a concrete.
it will require some maintenance. You can get the slopes sodded and stabilized. The bottom will sort of, there'll be meanders that will happen in there. But if you control the slope and the velocity of flow that you get through there, you can create a stable open channel. And we could conceivably do an open channel here and then let the developers leave it open. We have other places in town where we have open
Okay, so,
channels.
so it sounds like we've got a preliminary guidance as to which direction we're gonna go. We just gotta have to turn y'all loose to bring us something back. Is that?
Open channel, how far to the north, to the other side of it, will it be, how many feet away?
In this, away from the back property.
Away from the property line, because that channel, we got that pipe on our line now.
Yes.
Then we got our fence. If you're not gonna have a
obviously, we can't get onto your property with anything we do, so we'd have to start probably 5 feet from your property line and then cut the channel. So we would have to keep it within these 5 properties and not get into the properties over here. It just get too complicated. And you're right, we can't get too close to that pipe. We don't want to get close to that.
And it's good to know, like we,
And they're taking separate flow. The pipe that's there now gets everything over here, plus half of that. The new channel will get everything to the east.
yeah, so, and with what you're designing, like what we talked about, possible lake or other detention lake, I mean, it's, those conversations are gonna happen anyway, so now's the perfect time to try to tie them all
I
in.
mean, if indeed what I've heard, and I don't know the truth.
We're not voting on anything tonight, but we are trying to give you guidance and direction to
Yes, sir.
do what you feel is best, staff to work with you, and get us a plan.
Okay.
Is that correct? Mr. Byrd, we're not there. Well, let us just start the process and get it going. This is gonna be, and we'll try to see what we can do, because like I said, we've got other development that'll come along, and we'll figure that out. But right now, we're giving the engineer and staff guidance to try to work on that, the best recommended plan.
And if I can just say thank you so much, Mr. Hill, all of y'all, I mean, it's traumatizing. We appreciate y'all listening and trying to, I know, just because we were one of the first neighborhoods, unfortunately, it was the 10-year, but, we appreciate you trying to do that, because the more floods, flood other houses too in there, so.
We don't like it. You don't like it more than anybody. You don't like it. The staff doesn't like it because they're trying to fix it as it's happening. We don't like it to know that it's happening to everybody. So, I mean, it's unfortunate most for you all that live there. So we're going to do what we can to try to help correct it.
Mayor, there's one other condition that we were looking at, and it is on Deerfield.
Is that over?
That is Chase Creek Cove.
Behind the park,
This is
Caraway property.
Griffin
and
Road.
Clarksville Park.
Oh, yes.
The one house here has flooded, I think, a couple of occasions. And what happens is you see the area where this vacant property, that's almost 55 acres, that drains to the rear of this property. And when it floods, it gets high enough in a big storm, and water goes all around both sides of this house out into the street. There's a video of water flooding through here. Y'all remember the big flood we had in 2013, I think it was, or maybe 2016. So what we would propose to do here is, I can get this to change. Right now, the house floor elevation is about 313, a little over that. And the ground on each side is about 312 and a half. It gets real close to the floor elevation. We could put a swale, it's about a 10-foot wide, probably grass swale that would be about 2 feet lower than the house elevation, so that when this does flood, it would have a path to get around the house before it gets high enough to get in the house. And so that, we've got a storm drain pipe down through there. We'd have to, unfortunately, remove, I think there's some trees out there, probably some shrubs, fencing that might have to come out. We'd have to cut down probably about 1.5 feet or so at the worst location, highest location. This one was done to a 25-year storm, and the house elevation was specified.
You've got a huge drop from Chester Street all the way down to where this property is located. So those of us who've been around a long time, do you remember in 2010 and 2011 when Highway 70 was underwater and people had to be rescued, all that? These houses didn't flood then because it was a long, slow soaker. The reason for those floods was because the Loosahatchee River was full, and the Loosahatchee River backed up,
Yeah.
It never moved, it just sat there, and it steady rained hard, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, that,
And
yeah.
then you had those last two storms that you had.
Yeah, the 2010 flooded between here and Nashville, flooded the entire,
My concern is, now we've designed things for 25 years. We have a 25-year storm event, and then now we start fixing a whole bunch of people rock. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
don't
but
think-
you can't ever design, if you design drainage pipes to handle a 50-year storm, 100-year
That's what I'm saying.
storm,
I mean, I
it would be cost prohibitive to develop. The land would remain vacant.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, we're setting a precedent so that anytime somebody's house floods, they're gonna come in here and they're gonna say, my house flooded, and we want you to fix it. That's what I'm concerned about. I feel, I have a lot of empathy for anybody that's gone through this, but I'm also trying to think about the whole town. And now here, like, here's another example. We had the first example, now all of a sudden we're seeing the second example. You know, I mean, I don't know, I'm struggling with,
It's a good question. Between Terry and I, we probably talked to, what, 60 homeowners during the last rain event, all over town. And in most instances, we were able to meet with them on site, pull up aerial photo, and talk to them over the phone, and help them look at their lots so that they could see if they had installed a fence that created flooding, or if they had built their detached storage building lower than the rest of the lot, which made their driveway become a wetland conveyance and flood that structure. We were able to ascertain why that lot flooded or why that garage flooded, not necessarily in the home, but getting up to where it was worrying property owners. And we were able to ask them to look around their property and help themselves. Like when pools are installed and when storage buildings are installed, when garages are built, when fences are built, don't dam up your own property. So for the majority of the people that we talked to, we were able to find fixes. This just happens to be more complicated than that, but I understand your concerns, that's a valid concern. I mean, because the weather patterns seem to be getting more intense and more intense.
I mean, the other one is kind of like a neighborhood that's, you know, has an issue, but now we're talking about like an individual home. I don't know.
Well, part of this is College Hill Park's drainage, is why we're talking about this. It's like a third one, yes.
I think
so,
the ultimate solution here is when that property develops, there's gonna have to be a stormwater detention basin designed for more than just a 25-year storm. It's gonna have to hold back more than that.
yeah. And there's no plans for any of that right now, so again, back to, I guess, my recommendation of just, we turn it over to staff, especially about the first one, but this one too, let them come back with recommendations, let Kathy and Steve work together as engineers, and go from there. And then, I mean, a lot of this can be handled honestly during the phases, is they'll share information with us and keep us, abreast of the progress.
Bring an engineering contract forward for approval by the board to get the engineering started. Obviously, Gerald has to review any easements that have to be obtained. And then bid documents and any state approvals. I mean, there's quite a bit of environmental, issues that'll have to be addressed with permits and so forth.
Is there
State.
any grants available? Is this possible grant?
There's some money out there.
I'm just calling over the channel.
We always look at everything we can, so. All right, any other questions on this, so we can, this isn't a motion we're voting on, but just any other, I mean, I think we've given the guidance and yeah, so, and that communication will come from staff on that. Thank you, Mr. Hill. All right, we do have one item that we moved, back under new business, and this is item C that was removed from the consent agenda, and this is Resolution 2023-42 to authorize the mayor to execute any and all documents related to the purchase of the 352 acres on Milton Wilson Road from the state of Tennessee. Mr. Lawson.
We'd had some discussion back several months ago. There's been ongoing discussion for the last couple of years for the town to expand and purchase additional property over a supplemental site. This is approximately 353 acres. We've dealt with the state in the past where the complex is, the ball field complex up along Memphis Arlington. This is the property in between the veterans home, the existing buildings that are being, gonna eventually be demolished for the new site that you just saw at the new PUD across the street. This is the remaining 353 acres below that. The state, DIDD has approved, selling the town of Arlington the property for $4,027,000. That is based on appraisals they have had done. They have to sell the property at, an appraised value because the property goes back into the state DID account, which helps provide for, the developmental houses and development, disabled throughout the state. This would be for potential new public facilities. What public facilities is yet to be determined on how that could come through. We would probably have to do a study to see exactly what could be used, but it could be used for parkland, municipal complexes, schools, anything else that would be municipal property. They're only selling it to us if we use it for municipal purposes, not if it's being resold for development. So, staff has been working with the state and been working with the town, recommends approval. They have prepared a deed already. Closing would be probably in the next 30 days. We're still pending, waiting on the title report that we'll have to review, but the state has owned the property for at least 50 years. We don't expect there to be any issue in the title being cleared. So, can answer any questions you have.
Heard the recommendation by Mr. Lawson. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Harmon, second by Vice Mayor McKee. Any discussion or questions? I do want to quickly thank Mr. Lawson, Mrs. Durant, and Mr. Crater. I know at one point, we've all sat in on meetings with the state on this for years, and it's good to actually see this coming to fruition, to have some more available town municipal land. So we were fortunate because it could have gone a different route to development, and we would be fighting that in a different route. So I think it's a good opportunity for the town. Mr. Hill.
Just one quick question. I know at one time they were talking about archaeological sites on this property, and we're doing studies. If we get those as part of the purchase of the property.
We will. They came back with no significant impact and no, but we can get a copy of that.
Comments or questions from anybody? Did you have something? Oh, you pulled the microphone close. I didn't know if that was just like.
Ready to vote.
Oh, okay. All right. So all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Any other new business, Mrs. Owens? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the bills for payment?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Brooks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Biggs. Any objection to paying the bills? Seeing none, that item passes. Any other announcements? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Harmon. Second by Mr. Biggs. Any objection? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Everybody have a Merry Christmas.